Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're doing the Crafty Advent Calendar from Spellbinders, and today is day 9. So we're going to open the window for day 9 from this calendar. Now it has all sorts of different crafty items. There's been embossing folder, some die sets, sequins, a stamp set. So it's a fun way to celebrate the season by just having something fun to open up each day. So today was some sequins, and I'm going to use the mushroom die set that we had from a previous day, and I'm just going to create a shaker card from it. So I'm going to use the tops of those mushrooms as the opening parts for the shaker card. So I'm just placing everything where I want it to be so I know where to place those dies to cut those openings for the top. For the other parts of the mushrooms, I'm going to be cutting some cardstock scraps, but I do want to use this gray background for the base of the card or the base of the shaker part of the card, and I'm taping them in place to make sure that they're not going to shift in my die cutting machine. When I die cut, I turn it over so that the blade part is facing up so that the pressure from the roller is going right on that blade side. I used some die tape to tape that die in place, and it stuck really, really well. So if you have a problem with your die tape sticking really, really well, you can put it on your shirt or your pants a couple times just to take some of the stickiness away from it. I cut all the other pieces for the mushrooms off camera and the little pieces of grass. And now I'm taking some double-sided tape and I'm putting it around those mushroom areas, and I'm going to tape some acetate in those windows. I want to make sure that I have the tape all the way around it so that that paper does not lift up from that acetate. You can use acetate scraps, you can use packaging scraps. I always have a bunch of it sitting around, so it's perfect for things like this. And it doesn't need to look pretty. No one's going to see this side anyways. It just needs to cover those openings for the windows for your shaker part. Once that is done, I'm taking some double-sided foam tape and I'm going to cover the back of this piece. Now I want to make sure to stay within the outside part of the background. So I don't want to go over the outside edge, and I also don't want to go over the window part for the mushrooms. My foam tape here is quite thin, so I'm going to be doing a double layer of it. So I covered the back here, and again, this doesn't need to be pretty either because none of this is going to be seen. This is all going to be hidden. So I put my second layer down. The main thing to keep in mind here is you don't want any going in front of the windows, and you also want to make sure there's not any openings for the inside bits of your shaker to fall out of. So now that we have our back covered in foam, we can put some of our sequins for that shaker window. I have some other things that I've collected along the way that I'm going to add to it. So I have just kind of some silver, they almost look like chunky glitter. And then I have some little small star white sequins. I like to put a few things together that complement each other and just make it a little bit more interesting than just one thing inside. It doesn't need to be anything very expensive. Sometimes I've gotten things at dollar stores or just from other kits that I haven't actually used. Once I have those bits and pieces in there, I can take the backing off the tape. I typically don't take the backing off the tape until I have those bits in there because I don't want anything to fall and bounce and then go onto the tape. And I don't want to be fiddling with trying to pick something off of that tape. Now that I have my backing off of my tape, I can take a piece of just plain white cardstock and cover that. This is going to seal all those shaker bits in and make sure that nothing falls out. And now that it's sealed, I can work on the front and add more of the die cut pieces. Because that's completely sealed, I can move everything around and it just makes it a lot easier to work with. I die cut a bunch of green pieces to put kind of more clumps of grass along the bottom, just to give it something for those mushrooms to be sitting in. I'm going to put some glue on the back of them and then use my tweezers to help place them. Because these pieces are so tiny, they're a little bit harder to put glue on while you're holding them with your fingers, so tweezers are really, really helpful for this. After everything's glued in place, I'm going to put an acrylic block on it to hold it down while it finishes drying. And I'm going to put the mat that I've pre-cut onto the card base and let that dry before putting my shaker window onto the front of that. I'm using Distress Collage Medium to glue everything in place. I like it because it is a liquid glue, so I have a little bit of time to shimmy everything in place. And then it also dries completely matte and completely clear. So if by chance I happen to have a little bit of excess glue somewhere that seeps out, it's not going to be able to be shown once everything's dry. You won't even know it's there. The shaker window, I have some of my foam tape still exposed, so part of that will help to glue that window down, but I'm still putting some Distress Collage Medium in the center of it to help glue the center down. And now our shaker card is done. Shaker cards are a great thing to do for different occasions. They're just a fun way to add a little interactive element or a little something extra to your cards, and they're really quite simple to do. Thank you so much for joining me today for day 9. I'll see you tomorrow for day 10.